This is Gen Con with Wonders Wealth, powered by Radish Digital. And coming up next, we have part 2 of our conversation with World Series champion Curt Schilling and former Magic the Gathering head game designer Brian Tinsman. Curt leans into his gamer side and talks rules, and more rules with Brian Tinsman from Wonders of the First. Wonders of the First is the revolutionary card game released in March 2025 and created by Brian Tinsman. Plus, Curt reveals how many stone foils he has, plus which ones. And don't miss Curt's thoughts on deck building.
I like good companies. I like good people. I was a top level backer of Wonders when I got in late, so I missed some of the early boxes, Brian. But I love the people. I've really the community. It's a very different community. I've always been a gamer because of well, it's just been a passion. I was playing Dungeons and Dragons when I was playing baseball in high school, and that wasn't people. You didn't let people know that then because you were that was the nerd group. I was very comfortably in the nerd group. Number one because and it still is to this day. The nerd group is the most disinterested in self group of people. They're just honest people. There's no ego and all the things that go with that. And I get to go someplace where, for the most part, this community is different in that sense. I'm not known, and that I like that. I like hanging out and just shooting the breeze and digging into the rules and all the things that go with that. And this game is just provided a ton of that for me.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, and I know. Were you on the first Kickstarter?
No.
Or is that when you? Okay, so you missed the first one, but you got in on the second one.
Yes, I got in on the second one at the max level, and much to the chagrin of my wife, who just dropped off a package of like cards I think I bought on eBay. But one of my faults, as Brian has learned, is I don't do anything half-assed. I go all in, and that can be overwhelming to people sometimes. It can be uncomfortable. I don't, I'm part of a small company called Multi-Man Publishing, and we publish World War II level tactical level board games, most complicated game ever made. I am part of the group of guys who organize and handle the rules. And I read through the Wonders book and was blown away by. I really do believe, and I don't know if it's taboo around here, but I do believe this game has a chance to take Magic down. And I firmly believe that because of the depth of the game, which isn't obvious when you look at the downloadable rules online, because you see, oh my gosh, it's and I've said this time and time again, this game is very much like chess. It's very, very easy to play and learn how to play, but the depth is mathematically impossible to quantify. And that's awesome for people like me that play, and an absolute nightmare for people like Brian who have to oversee the rules, because there's nothing worse, I think, to new players than ambiguity. And that's Dolly, by the way, so she has joined the interview. So I've been intimately involved in my own little personal venture into the rule set, because I want this to succeed. I want the people with the group to succeed. I want the game to succeed. And I think I have insight into the editing and rules part that not a lot of people have. And that, there's an Abe Lincoln quote that I love, and I get the feeling from this team that it's in play is, man can do anything if nobody cares who gets the credit. And I have it feels to me like, the player base, how I got to be here was Discord, and the player base is very rare in the game space, in the sense that these guys are just as interested, not more so, as bringing in a new player, sitting them down, walking them through a game, and teaching them how to play with empathy and patience that doesn't exist in this satisfy me now world. And I think Brian recognizes too, and Rommel and all the guys I've met, that this is a word of mouth thing, and Wonders is going to be in the stores and launch and hopefully go global and be played by millions, but it starts with that passionate core community that I think they have. I don't know how they got it, but they got it, and that to me is magical, and that's one of the reasons why, I trust me, I'm not doing this for the money because there is none. I asked Brian for a stone foil Phoenix Quill, and that ain't coming, so I'm not getting compensated. I'm not getting. I'm not going to get compensated, but I love being a part of this, and I want to see them succeed.
Just for perspective, Curt mentioned that he took a look at the rules and he had some thoughts on them, and then we just got a tsunami of revisions and a complete reorganization of the entire comprehensive rules and in-depth discussion of just about every point that you could look at improving. So we were scrambling to keep up. So it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it's always funny to watch people who entertain themselves with something they work at. Right? I mean, I played baseball my whole life. I didn't pick up a baseball in November and go, "Hey, let's go out and play a pickup game." Like, these guys are working, long hours inside of this game, and then that to me is the litmus test of a great game. I can remember all the good ones. You're playing it while you're making it, and you're still playing it after you're done making it, because it's that fun. That is to me the litmus test for, did you make something successful because you still want to play it out. And these guys are in it 24/7, and yeah, tsunami is probably the right word. I just went to town. I did shorten the rule book from 30 pages to 11, which again, like I said, I and then I didn't realize that Brian was kind of a one-man band. And that's a tough island to live on, man, because you've got all the decisions to make, and we had mentioned earlier, and I talked to him about this. You don't want rules questions to be answered by "because I say so." That generally doesn't translate to some kid learning the game in Canada or Japan. And you need, like I said, this game's going to be successful and grow and be huge as long as people can pick it up and play it.
You mentioned before the depth and potential of it to become huge and take on other Titan games of the industry. And from my perspective, there's some games that are it's hard work to develop new sets and new cards, but this one it's easy and fun, and that's just a signal that there's so much design space and there's so much potential that you can come up with 10 cards while you're daydreaming in the shower and then go write them down and be halfway to the next set before you even sit down to work. That's a hugely positive sign.
Well, and it's really powerful being on the outside. I'm not privy to any of the next set's information, and I don't want to be. But I also know that when you have a rule set that's like this has, one of the things you want to be able to do is to design rules that have potential and have a future. And maybe that you want to write because every time you issue a set, you don't want to have to re-release a whole new rule set. What you just want to be able to do is add little things that become add little things that become themselves, that you can design off of, I guess is the way. And the thought that this has that kind of potential tells you just how deep it really is. And that's the thing. There's so many things inside the game that differentiate themselves that aren't readily apparent. And I came at this rules thing from a new player's perspective, and that was I think it was an important perspective, because I wasn't sitting for the last 2 years with Brian and the design team, play testing and getting to know intimately all these details. I'm your target audience. I'm the new player, and that again. Dolly is just interjecting herself, but I think that was a perspective that they didn't have. I was a new player with extensive, deep rules experience, and so when I read the rule book, I saw, wait a minute, I don't think you can say it like this. You can say it like this, but this is what the result's going to be. And so I felt like that was what I could add. And I've tried, I know I've been a pain in the butt, and I'm sure it's been annoying to see the Discord channel with new messages from Garrick38. But I know, like most things, my intent is pure. I don't want a job on the design team. Although if that came with free stuff, I would consider it. But like I said, my motives are pure here. I just want the game. I want these people to see and realize the dream and the vision, and I want to be. I think I can help do that. And so I'm retired, man. I have no job. I don't. I'm trying to explain to them that my Monday and Saturday are exactly the same, which is, for a gamer, I mean, literally, my small company is called Multimedia Publishing, and the game we publish is called Advanced Squad Leader, and it's incredibly complex. My day is literally playtesting ASL and playing Wonders, and hold on, and showing off my cards, which, I'm gonna just, hopefully I'll nerd out a little bit here if I can. Everybody listening knows what stone foils are, and there's I think it's 417. Brian, is it 417? There's 417 stone foils.
It's 436, I believe.
Okay, yeah. 436. So I am a 5-time member of the 436 club, and I pulled my 5th stone foil yesterday, which was Nova Matrix Bender, and I pulled 2 Mythic OCMs. So I now have Emma, the Great Usurper, and High Lord Valeris, and I'm just loving life. So, and like I said, this is I'm not proud of this, but this is my mail today, and these are cards that I bought on eBay, and I have a Phoenix Quill box that arrived today as well. So I'm going to be nerding out after the show, opening stuff, trying to finish my formless foil.
Oh my God, that's amazing. God. That's amazing. Nice. So I have the big question of the day, though, Brian and Curt. Have you guys played each other?
No,
we haven't had the matchup yet.
No, and that'll happen at some point. But my guess right now is I know that they're deep into the second set play testing and design and all that stuff. So, here's the thing. And I've said this, if I'm going to get Brian's time, it won't be over Tabletop Simulator right now. It's going to be, going through these rules and making sure, like I said, it's a lonely place to be where he is. And it's a challenging place to be. So, my goal is to declutter his day-to-day thing and do work that, like I said, they're doing this second set, and I'm sure they've got plans and all the things that are going with that. And, I don't need insight into what they're doing now, because I look at what he gives me as feedback as that'll correlate with what we're trying to do with set number 2. And we don't want to do anything language-wise. I'm really, like I said, the attention to detail and the minutiae is where I live. And that's what my goal here is, to try and hopefully help this thing along.
So, Curt, from a player's perspective, and I'm one of those people that everyone has to be patient with, and explain everything. But I know there's a big deal about, crafting your decks and getting the right lands and the things. And everyone has different philosophies on how they attack it. And so what do you look for in a deck? How are you crafting your deck?
All right. Well, so for Wonders players, Umbrathine is my orbital. I think I have been tweaking and learning how to use it. I built my deck and I'm tweaking my deck and stuff. But the power for me of Umbrathine is, for those of you that play, I feel like I have 2 hands in play at all time. If I cycle through my deck right, I've got my hand, I've got the Abyss, and I can play cards from both places based on the power of the Umbrathine traits. Right? There's a lot of just when my cards go to the Abyss, they're still inactive. They're still in play. And so I can, if I if I process through my hand right, my open draw and my mulligan is good, I've got a hand of 10, anywhere from 7 to 20 cards. And late in the game, I can turn a wonder into a 30 power, stone stealing, game winning wonder through Cards in the Abyss. And so I love the intermix and the interaction. I'm just now bringing a couple cards from different orbitals into my deck, which I've found to be interesting. But that's the orbital I've been focused on playing, and that's the orbital I enjoy, because I think that in a card game with 50 cards, your resources are 50. When you can play from 12 to 15 instead of 7 to 2, I think you have a huge advantage.
That's interesting. I know a lot of people. Obviously I haven't gotten input from a tremendous amount of people on their chosen orbital, but I do not recollect hearing a lot of Umberthine deck builders. But I know there's a couple characters, but not as a whole.
And I got to tell you, so I got into the pre-slabs when, as a big backer, I got 10 free ones. And this is no lie, guys. The very first card of Wonders that I ever opened in any capacity anywhere was a Phoenix Quill.
Wow.
Of course it was.
A pre-slab game. No, and I laugh because it's like, I've talked to Legend, who owns the Art Proof, which, by the way, I pulled 2 art proofs in the pre-slab. I have Divine Conduit and Crystal Silk Spider, which I don't think a lot of people, I didn't understand what that meant at first. And then I saw the Emma comic book and I'm like, holy crap, really? Like, oh my God. And I think the Divine Conduit is the ultimate art proof for a card game about Magic. I think there's a lot of things I could, but it's like an NFT, and I own the IP, except for, I'm not going to go out and make a card game anyway, but I just thought it was a fascinating concept, and just another one of the ways that I've told Brian this, I'm blown away by, I think I now know about the delay and getting the game out and all the things that went with that. I'm blown away by the delay. I think was perfect for this game. I think it came in I don't know how they feel business side, but I think it was optimal for the game and the audience. And I think as a devout, I'm a Christian, and I all the things that go with that. Everything happens for a reason. And there are just certain things in life that you look back and go, at the time you're like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. And then 6 months after, you're like, thank God that happened. And I look at this, and anytime you have the depth and the breadth of talent and passion that you have on this team, good things are going to happen. You just gotta have a voice in the room saying you don't need to make it happen yesterday, right? This game is going to grow and become something magical on its own because of its players, but all of it. Get rid of all of the white noise. The gameplay is unbelievably fun, and that will win the day in the end. And that gets back to the whole rules discussion and why I'm involved. I want that to be as rock solid as anything that exists. I think
it's so fun to hear that as a designer. I put years into it, and to see it.
Thanks everyone for enjoying part 2 of our 4-part sit down with World Series champion Curt Schilling and former Magic the Gathering head game designer Brian Tinsman. Join us in part 3 when Curt and Brian continue their discussion of Wonders of the First. Brian will share stories from his Magic the Gathering days and just what is Curt talking about when he says, I wish I could have been in the room when you guys were doing that because I would have been screaming, are you effing crazy? Wonders of the First is the revolutionary collectible card game released in March 2025, created by Brian Tinsman. It's all in part 3. We hope you come back for more.